This episode of On the Limb with Nature's Voice Game Calls is brought to you by Carts Towing and Timco Auto Transport. Local and long-distance towing, auto recovery, roadside assistance, auto lockouts, and jump starts. And they also do repossessions. Give them a call today at 304-949-2323 or 304-925-0858. Again, that's Carts Towing and Timco Auto Transport, 304-949-2323, 304-925-0858.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of On the Limb with Nature's Voice Game Calls. We're pretty excited tonight about our special guest. Tonight we have Charlie Mooney, West Virginia chairman of the Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, which we'll be referring to that as BHA later on. And then we also have Jameson Hibbs, and he is the chapter coordinator for several different states. So we'll discuss that later on as well. So how you guys doing this evening?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I certainly appreciate the invite to this podcast and an opportunity to talk about BHA with everybody.
Yeah, it's great to be on here. We definitely appreciate the call and the chance to be on.
Yes, we definitely appreciate you guys, and I know we've got some things that we've been discussing off air about some things coming up at the West Virginia Hunting and Fishing Show this year in Charleston. You guys are going to be there, and we got some things coming up that we'll talk about later on. But Backcountry Hunters and Anglers is the voice of our wild public lands, waters, and wildlife. So just give us a little more in-depth view of what BHA is.
Yeah, sure can. So, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers started way back in 2004 around a campfire in Oregon. And there's a group of guys up there kind of chatting about, a lot of different organizations, conservation efforts going on around the country and really what is missing. And one thing they kind of really nailed on was the fact that we need somebody out there really advocating for public lands, our national forest, our state forest, our county parks, our any sort of accessible areas for hunters and fishermen in outdoor recreational pursuits to actually have, good access, great habitat whenever they get there, and then how to make that happen. So that's what BHA was kind of formed on, was providing that access to those outstanding public lands and waters. And what they've done is, slowly, it was kind of a Western-centric, organization in the beginning. But as that picked up steam and it really kind of gained a lot of credibility throughout the country, they wanted to spread that message throughout the entire U.S. and Canadian provinces. So we now have chapters in pretty much we do it in every state except for, I believe, Hawaii, and we have most Canadian provinces with chapters. And what that does is each chapter kind of has the autonomy of kind of watching over their public lands and waters within their state. And we couldn't do this. I'll definitely want to give a shout out right now so I don't forget to all of the volunteers. That's the big thing about BHA is we are membership based, but we're also volunteer based. And the members and the volunteers are our absolute backbone and the driving force behind BHA. We have a lot of really dedicated conservationists out there a part of us. They drive the ship, they steer the ship, especially in each one of their chapters, kind of watching the policy efforts, working with state DNR officials, working with National Forest, USFS, whoever they can to make that great stewardship stuff on the grassroots basis. So, BHA has a lot of great partners out there. We do partner with a lot of other conservation organizations to get this great work done. And honestly, we just have a lot of fun doing it. And that's what really drew a lot of folks to BHA is we do a lot of the hands-on, get dirty grassroots work stuff. And, I've had a lot of conversations with some of my states about what brought them to BHA. And it's the fact that, we have those fun work days on those public properties where we go out and maybe do some invasive species, remediation or do a trout stocking or do some wood duck box builds or, go out and play some rabbit around some public properties. And you'll walk away, look over your shoulder and think, wow, made an impact today. That's awesome. And people can come out and enjoy this. So that's kind of the premise around BHA. I mean, I'm sure we'll get more in depth here a little bit, more specific conversation, but that's kind of the roundabout of what BHA really is.
That's awesome. So, I mean, it's pretty big organization like your Ducks Unlimited and things like that, is it?
Yeah, it is. And we're just under 30,000 members right now. We were a little over 30,000 there for a while. COVID happened and everyone kind of took a step back, had to watch the discretionary income. We've lost a few members, but we're definitely bouncing back after the COVID, pandemic's kind of taking its toll on a lot of organizations. We're getting back out there with a lot of great events, getting away from the virtual style that everybody kind of had to integrate into. getting more tangible stuff going on, more social events, and more membership engagement. So yeah, it's definitely a big. It's young compared to a lot of the other conservation organizations. It's only almost 20, not even quite 20 years old now. So yeah, it's for how young it is. We've definitely taken off and made quite the impact.
Yeah, I know during COVID, it has changed a lot of the ways that we communicate and different things like that. So just talking about West Virginia chapter here, and Backcountry Hunters and Anglers aims to be an advocate and guardian for 1.7 million acres of public lands and waters in West Virginia alone. And that's to be the voice for the sportsmen that use those lands and waters, and to be a catalyst for education and recruitment of tomorrow's sportsmen. So you all do different things with hunting education and things like that as well?
Yeah, we tried. We're definitely heavily involved in what we refer to often as R3 initiative. As far as bringing new hunters in, getting folks reactivated into hunting, the thing with BHA and us being focused on the public land is that's giving us access to put those new hunters or to get those folks out there to have a place to be able to hunt and to practice their skills. One of the big things that you've seen over the years in the decline in hunting numbers is folks losing access or losing a place to go. They're not on their family farm, or they've moved to a different area. So without that access to some of the public land and the public water, you lose those fishermen, you lose those hunters, which directly affects conservation dollars and stuff coming back to your state to keep deer and ducks and elk and stuff on the ground.
Yeah. Now, you all do legislation and things like that when it comes to different bills and things that's passed. I know me and you discussed some things with the national park system there.
Yeah, we work directly with Capito and Manchin's office on some of the things, mostly in the mapping sector of it. Trying to work out a proposal that would certainly work with everybody involved. Don't want to lose any hunting land whatsoever. But with what it was taking place there was certain areas that, working with Capito's office, that we identified that were some key sectors that were used heavily. Some other areas that could be opened back up. That had been closed that, just because of original property lines just had never been looked at to be opened back for hunting. And so they made those concessions and opened that up. And then currently we're trying to get some additional signatures, encourage Capito and Manchin to allot the funds to purchase some additional property to preserve it into the preserve to offset the acreage that happened with the national park designation that we lost.
Yeah, that was in regards to that was the New River Gorge, the National Park Service there. I had a mind blank there when we was talking about that, but there was over 70,000 acres there that they took over for that National Park Service.
Well, there's over 70,000 acres that was part of what was originally the New River Gorge National River, which was part of the national park system at that point. But they changed the designation of it to be a national park / preserve. And the preserve allows us to still continue to hunt on that property, but certain areas, obviously right around the New River Gorge Bridge, Sandstone Falls, Grandview, Thurmond, those areas were made part of the national park. And so you lost some of those acreage. Most of the acreage that was lost for hunting is really in the main gorge section in the lower section of the New River, where a lot of the whitewater rafting, the climbing area, and all that is at. And so that allots to, a total of a little over 7,000 acres that's in the national park designation that you can not hunt on at this time. And so that's why, like I say, we're working on with them to encourage to get the funds allotted to be able to make the purchase of some additional property to offset that loss to the hunters.
I got you. So what are some other legislative things that are going on now that we can update some people about that you all are working on getting taken care of?
Well, one of the things that's been consistent in the state of West Virginia that we pay a lot of attention to is your ATV, OHV usage, especially in regards to like some of the wildlife management areas or the park areas. Those areas have been set aside for wildlife management itself, and then also for hunter access. And so, there's plenty of areas throughout West Virginia that are great for being able to ride ATVs. Most all of us also have ATVs or off-road vehicles ourselves. But we don't want to offset the property that's there for wildlife and designate for wildlife to then turn it into a recreational zone just for vehicles. There's a lot of documentation that that sort of off-road usage in places displaces some of the wildlife. Definitely affects during springtime when deer and elk and things are having their calves and fawns, that it affects the populations and stuff. And so that's one of the main things that we see that consistently comes up. But we also pay attention to water quality. There's several different things in the legislation that we're trying to keep our eye on.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know that I don't know if you all have listened to the most recent podcast that we've done, but we've had Jason Webb on. He's with Capital Advocates. He's the managing member of Capital Advocates LLC out of Charleston, and he deals a lot with different states and companies and things like that on these hunting issues. He's the one that helped get Sunday hunting passed in West Virginia and things like that. So. All right, Jameson, we were talking there earlier about you being a chapter coordinator for several different chapters in about 5 different states. And you're originally from Indiana, but now you reside in Kentucky, I believe you said. And it had to be one of the states that you are over. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So good question. So I my past life, I was a Parks and Rec director. I went to school for Parks and Recreation Management. I was over 2 different county park systems in Indiana, and that's actually kind of how I found BHA, so to speak. Besides being an avid hunter and angler, my park systems, I was over a couple of large lakes.
Awesome.
And so I kind of got my feet wet, no pun intended, by operating large campgrounds and kind of the outdoor recreational space. And then the lake systems themselves, besides offering some outstanding fishing in Indiana, I also learned a lot about water quality and habitat and what that means as far as how water quality relates to sound habitat for both fish, waterfowl species, and of course recreational usage. And then of course BHA kind of started in Indiana, and that's how I found BHA. So I joined the BHA, got involved with the chapter as the co-chair, the vice president, so to speak, and then I became the chair for about a year. And that's when this position became available. And they kind of did a little bit of restructuring within BHA. Once one individual kind of got promoted inside the ranks, another individual kind of left BHA altogether, and they kind of restructured the states. And so the states that I am over now, and I started actually just this last March 14th, if I remember right, 10th or the 14th. I'm over Michigan, Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio, and West Virginia. So it's a pretty good spread of states.
Awesome.
And then like you said a minute ago, I'm supposed to live within one of those. And unfortunately, with my past job, I lived inside the park system. So, I had a house provided by the park, so we had to move. And that was one of those debacles my wife and I really kind of weighed our options. Like, all right, cool, we take this job, we have to move. And it was kind of a catch-22, because I was getting to the age where I've not bought a house yet. So it was time to kind of, fly the nest, so to speak, and go out and build some equity. Yeah. And we kind of looked at Michigan, because of all the ample public land and waters and access to numerous fish species and hunting opportunities up there. But we wanted to get away from our traditional ag land that we were living in Indiana, and we wanted to get more rolling hills. And my wife's from the Ozarks of Missouri. And so, she's always been a little upset about living in flatland Indiana. So she's like, all right, we're going to Kentucky and we're going to go buy some stinking hills. So we ended up down here a little east of Lexington, and be honest, down here, it's phenomenal. There's a lot of good public ground here in Kentucky. There's ample opportunity to hit a lot of lakes, rivers, and streams for numerous different fish species. And of course, the public land with Boone National Forest, not too far away. Some really good, outstanding, well-managed WMAs, wildlife management areas, not too far from my house. I do have good access to some public lands here. So, And not to say Indiana, Ohio, and West Virginia didn't fit the bill for any of that. As I was trying to find a centralized area for my job, that way I could cover all 5 states adequately.
Yeah.
I mean, after we drove through West Virginia this last year and been to it, my wife and I are both like, maybe we should have went there. That's a beautiful state, absolutely gorgeous over there.
No, that makes sense. I mean, you want to try to live centralized so you can branch out into those different areas that you're working there. Yeah, we do have a beautiful state, and I'm blessed to be able to live here. I'm born and raised here, so
yeah, absolutely. It was kind of that mythical land growing up in Indiana. I was always told, especially getting in more the outdoor recreation field in my undergrad, is you go to West Virginia for the real outdoor rec experience on the east side of the country, and that's the truth.
I'm really telling you, yeah, I've been to Maine hunting, and it's probably just about as good as being here. If there was another place that I had to live, I would live in Maine.
Yeah, I've heard that from a few people. I have not been to the Northeast, but man, I'd love to go check that out up there. I want to hike it to top of Mount Katahdin, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I like the cold weather. Of course, the older I get, the worse that's getting. But
yeah, I like cold weather. If it's below 50, I'm happy.
Yeah. So I've always wondered, how is it to live within the park system, like being a park ranger? I mean, that would be like the dream job for me.
I loved it. I really did. The only, and it's not that I wanted to leave it. I love the park system. I love Parks and Rec. I like doing the capital development. I love the community outreach, the fundraising, the projects in the ground, meeting people. But both park systems I ran were campgrounds too. And that was for 16 combined years between the two parks departments. And I like to camp myself. And our daughter's 8. We never really had any free weekends in the summertime. So never our buddies or our friends were out doing things in the weekends. If they didn't come to the park and camp with us or hang out with us, I never really got to see them. And of course, I want to get my daughter out in the field. I want to get her out fishing, get her out exploring more. And it just really wasn't going to work, running campgrounds and being that busy. So, in the camping industry, a Friday is like a Monday, a Saturday is like a Monday, a Sunday is like a Wednesday, and then you have Monday all over again. And that's what it was like through the busy season. And as much as I loved that lifestyle, that's what it was kind of time to step away and, going into BHA and diving more into conservation efforts and focusing on what I love or my passion. Hunting and fishing access, and still having that great opportunity to speak with our volunteers like Charlie in West Virginia and all the other states combined. I mean, I get to deal with people on a daily basis, and we get to talk about the things we love to talk about. So I really like the niche that I found now. And BHA is a phenomenal organization to work with. We have some tremendous leaders that I'm learning from. Some great mentors up top, kind of trickling on down through their message and their leadership styles. I really like where I landed, and I'm learning a lot through BHA now.
Man, that's awesome. I mean, there's always pros and cons to all that stuff, and things that you mentioned there that I didn't even think of really. You're there 24/7. You can't really leave,
Right,
so.
Right. Yeah, it's a lifestyle. And, and you get that knock on the door at 7 p.m. on Saturday, and you're getting ready to eat dinner with their family. And like, oh, hey, I just ran over a water line. Sorry. I'm like, oh, man. So you got to go hop on the backhoe and go dig up a water line. You're done at midnight. It's great.
Yeah, we camp a lot, and I always drive past the ranger house there when we go in, because it's usually the first thing you see when you get into the park. And I'm like, man, I wish we lived there.
Yeah. And kind of reverting back to a conversation we had before we went live is, I used to fish a lot, and I used to fish a lot of bass tournaments. I love doing that. And I kind of got away from the bass tournament style and kind of went more to pan fishing, sustainability, because I wanted to put more fish in the freezer. And I worked around fishermen, and I worked on the lakes all the time, and it's hard to play where you work. And then whenever it was time to leave work, we went fishing other places quite often, but we usually went hiking. Hunting season, obviously I'm hunting only. I don't really fish hardly at all in hunting season, but it's one of those I didn't get away from fishing. I just didn't fish as much as I did about 10 years ago. But now that I have more time to actually, especially my daughter's getting old enough to have her own kayak, stuff like that, I have no doubt fishing is going to be much more in our schedule than it was the past couple of years.
Yeah,
That's
hear you,
awesome.
For sure.
You can never fish too much.
One of the things that we like to do during our podcast is our salute to valor. So our military service members, women and men, today our salute to valor is going into honor of Greg Hicks from Dayton, Ohio. He resides here in West Virginia now, He's a good friend of mine. He served in the U.S. Navy as a damage controlman first class. 10 years he served. He served in Newport, Rhode Island, and Virginia Beach. And he was on a couple different carriers. I believe that's what those are. FF 1093 USS Capodanno and the URS 53 USS Grapple. The AOE 6 USS Supply. Firefighting instructor at FTC Norfolk. He was on med cruises. And the medals that he was awarded during his time of service is Sea Service Deployment ×3, National Defense Service Medal, Southwest Asia Service Medal, Battle E Ribbon, Humanitarian Service Medal, Award, Joint Emeritus Award, Good Conduct Medal, Navy Achievement Award, and the Kuwait Libertarian Medal. And he served from 1989 to 1998. So, Greg Hicks, we thank you for your service to our great country, sir, and God bless you.
Yes, God bless you, Greg. So let's talk fishing a little bit, gentlemen. I remembered when I first really started getting into bass fishing, and I was like, this is something I'm gonna spend some time in. I had always used open face reels. And this is kind of, something I'd like to ask, because it was difficult for me getting started. I wanted to get into some bait casters. And do you all have like a specific brand that you recommend or something like that for like a new fisherman that's kind of getting in a brand of reel, whether it be bait caster, open face, whatever, but a specific brand you guys recommend?
We use in my guide service, we're using all 13 fishing stuff, and I think you'll find all their product line's really, really nice, and it runs a really wide price point, so you can get from pretty entry level right up to professional quality tournament angler stuff, and the one thing, that we recommend a lot of times with any of the fishing equipment that we have with folks who are new, whether it's fly fishing equipment or spin fishing or anything like that, is try to get something relatively middle of the road, generally speaking. You'll especially find on the fly side of stuff, when you get into that middle of the road quality, you're going to get a lot better warranty, just a better casting product, and better longevity.
Gotcha.
In some of that equipment, you want to think about it a little bit of the same way that you would think about buying a rifle or a shotgun or something. If you buy something of a decent quality, depending on how much use it's really going to get, it's going to last. You can have something, especially on like some of your high-end reels or a high-end fly reel, those last a really long time. You can hand that down or pass it on to your kids or somebody else later on. And then, of course, that allows you to upgrade,
Absolutely.
To something new at that point. So, I say,
Exactly.
look at that. And it all varies depending on whether you want to go into a open face spinning reel or bait casting. For new folks, yeah, I don't really typically recommend a bait casting reel. Takes a little extra adjustment and some practice. But with that being said, I had a 9-year-old kid in my boat last year that was running a bait casting setup that actually he fished it better than I could. And so, there's no hard and fast rules in it.
Right. Yeah, I got you.
The Shakespeare ugly stick. Just go with the ugly
Go with the ugly stick, man. Hey, when in doubt.
And make sure you keep a receipt. If you keep your receipt, it's a lifetime warranty.
Nice. Very nice. Well, what's funny is, I'd thought about getting back into bass fishing, and my dad gave me a $100 gift certificate to Cabela's, and so I was like, man, I'm gonna go up there and get a pole. So I go up, and I spent maybe 2 hours, because I wanted to make sure I got the perfect one. I ended up getting a Fluger President, open face, and I used that for a couple years. I caught more bass fish on that pole than any other rig that I've ever used. Of course, then I got into bait casting after that because one of my kids rolled the pole up in the car window. So that was the end of that one.
That Fluger President reel is one that I used. I had like 3 of them when I was fishing a lot of tournaments. I had that, and my bait caster was the Abu Garcia
Yes.
Revo. And I fish left-handed because I like to work the rod right-handed, especially for soft plastics and stuff. So I like the Abu Garcia Revo for my bait caster, and that Fluger President is a really smooth open face reel.
Yeah, I like it.
For what, 60, 70 bucks, it didn't cost a whole lot. But it held up. I think it was 10 ball bearings. It was always smooth. Obviously take it apart, clean it a couple times a year if you're using it a lot. But man, that thing was a really smooth reel.
Yeah, I agree. That's probably one of the best feeling reels that I've used as far as open face. Anyway, go ahead.
No, you're fine. I mean, I was going to say I love bait casters, and I love the look of them, the concept, and everything. I started out with, a Zebco when I first started fishing, and I started using a bait caster and got a bird's nest, threw that thing right in the water. I was like, I'm done with this stuff, man.
Oh, man. In all honesty, that's the thing that propelled me into using a bait caster was I saw a real good YouTube video on how to get rid of a bird's nest just right there on the bank. And I tried it one time
Reverse
and it worked.
reel?
And ever since then, it's like it because then I wasn't afraid of bird nesting
Was
anymore.
it reverse reel?
You gotta tighten your drag all the way down and hold your thumb on the spool really hard and reel against it. And then you can try to reel as hard as you can against your thumb and then pull out line and until you can't pull out anymore, and then you do the same thing again and it'll come right out.
If you get them, if you get them to where you want it, like, I've heard that you're always supposed to put your bait on the end of it because it's different. Your different tensions and things like that has to do with the weight of your bait. So you definitely want to make sure that your bait is just barely falling on the end of that. And it makes a big difference because if you've got it too loose or too tight, you're definitely going to make that bird nest all the time. So after I learned more about them and things like that, I started to like them more, and I still use them today. So I was just kidding about that. But
And just when you have that tension just right, you cast it into the wind and you're back to bird nest.
Absolutely. Windy day and light lures. Those are the bane of my existence.
Yep. It has that little bit of pushback on it, and it's done. All right, Jameson, so you said that you're a bigger hunter than you are a fisherman. So how's your hunting season been going so far?
It was I really didn't know what to expect moving down to a new state. We came down here we officially moved down. We bought a house, and my wife and daughter moved down in May, and I was still kind of doing both roles as parks director and BHA. So I didn't really get down here until about July. Then, getting everything situated, I never really had a chance to go out and scout much. I did a lot of e-scouting, just trying to figure out where properties were at, but I honestly didn't set foot on any ground until hunting season. And I've hiked a lot of miles, just trying to check some stuff out. I've taken 2 deer so far in one of the WMAs, not too far from here, which is nice. One pretty nice 9-pointer. It's not huge, but it was one of those years that we eat a lot of venison, and I love waiting for big antlers. I really do. I always have. I'm a Midwest boy who can't help it. But at the same time, I'm also about sustainability. So we go through at least 3 deer a year in the freezer. And coming down here this year, I told my wife I don't care what comes by this year, especially I'm going to shoot.
Yeah,
little fork horn doesn't matter. I need meat in the freezer, and I got lucky. Opening day of firearm season, I still took my bow out. So I like to bow hunt whenever I can, and I ended up harvesting a pretty nice 9-pointer, big old body, probably just a 2.5, 3.5-year-old deer. But he had a giant body on him. But it was fun. So I was far enough back that I wasn't going to drag him out. So I kind of did that field quartering. I hiked him out. I have a Kuyu backpack. I've been on a couple of elk hunts, so I bought a pretty nice hunting pack a few years ago. And so I kind of got a little practice there.
Awesome.
Quartered him out. Put him in the game bags and hiked him out. Kind of did a little time lapse video of it, which is pretty cool. And I was going to time lapse the whole video, and you could see me not too far from one of the access roads in this WMA, and I heard a truck, and I happened to look over, and I saw a conservation officer driving down. I was like, oh, cool. I love seeing the COs out in the public lands. It means they're checking people, and
yeah, definitely.
I like talking to them, and I've had a chance to. Well, he stops the truck and comes walking over to me. He's like, well, cool. So I my confirmation number for my check-in, which I already checked the deer in, was on my phone. So I had to get the phone down and stop that video. But knowing now how nice the guy was, Officer Brett was his name, super, super nice guy. And we talked about BHA and hunting for probably about an hour. But if I'd known how cool he was, I would have kept that time-lapse video going and have him come over and wave while I turned it off or something. I got a good ending to that time-lapse. But anyway, so I had a good time there. About 3-4 days before that, I shot a little doe out there in that property too. So I've had some good luck, 2 deer down so far, and I've found some really good public land ground here that I'm anxious to do some more postseason scouting to kind of get more boots in the ground, more knowledge on it, and prepare myself for next year. So I did go on an elk hunt out in Wyoming back in September. Me and 2 buddies, or buddy and his dad, was still a good friend of mine. Didn't have any luck out there, but we were out there I think we're hunting for 7 days in southern Wyoming in the Snowy Range Mountains. We had close calls. First day we called in 2 little bulls, just couldn't quite get shots. We called a cow in that evening, just couldn't get a shot at her. We had elk every day except for one. I think the third or fourth, we were 30 yards from a big screaming bull. But man, it was so thick you couldn't shoot 10 yards. And he was, just screaming. There was 3 bulls coming up this creek channel that morning, and they were all just screaming at each other the entire time. And we got on him first, couldn't get it done. He saw some movement, so he bolted, but he just bugled the whole way running from us. He didn't go far, so we tried to get on another bull. We spooked a couple cows. We're actually unknown elk. We didn't really know what they were. So thick, man, they were only 10 yards from us whenever we spooked them. I'm scared. I think it scared me more than it scared them whenever they took off. But yeah, we had a great time, and we were up this old logging road about 4 miles. It took us 2 hours to drive up there, this old road. It was just a perfect setting, beautiful out there. I love the West. I worked at a ranch out there in Wyoming for a while, about where we were at there in Carbon County next to Saratoga. And so I always wanted to go back out there to hunt that specific mountain range because I did a lot of snowmobiling out there. So it was cool to be back out there again.
So yeah, that was just you hunting for elk there on public lands, and you didn't have no guide or anything like that?
Nope, just DIY, just
man, that's awesome. Yeah, we've had a couple people on here talking about those DIY trips and how you can do that cost effectively and not have to spend $7,000,
Oh man, you really can. I went out there, see the same 2 guys and another guy we all went out to Colorado in 2018. And then I went by myself in 2020 to northern Colorado, and I was out there for 10 days. And even alone, by the time I did my food prepping here at home, and I bought quite a few freeze-dried meals, but I made quite a few of my own, did a lot of dehydrated foods on my own. And what I do, whenever I'm at truck camp, and I've done this for a long time at just my only deer camp, and whenever I cook dinner at home, where my wife does, I'll save like 1 portion and I'll vacuum seal it and freeze it. Then if I'm camping at my truck, I just pull it out, throw it in boiling water, and I don't have to worry about, a freeze-dried meal or some sort of difficult food prep while I'm camping or while I'm hunting. So, it's also an easy way to be cost effective, really kind of, decrease that cost of going out west or anywhere in those destination hunting trips. So I did that by myself going out there and back. I think it was just right around like $1,100, maybe a little bit less. I don't remember now. And then this last time between the tag and all, with 3 of us splitting gas, I think it was right around about $900. So it's really not that bad.
Man, I don't know what that was, Jameson. I think you just, somebody heard you talking about Wyoming there and just shut us down real quick.
Yeah, I think the Outfitters Association hacked us in there and said, no DIY out here.
Yeah, definitely. Oh man, that was crazy. So go back into what you was talking about there on the hunts and the cost effectiveness and things.
Yeah, so I think a lot of it to kind of reduce that cost is just don't be intimidated by it. Try to get 2 or 3 buddies to share that gas, and it's really not that bad. You can go out there every time you get a tag, you do it for under $1,000, which seems like a lot, but at the same time, if you get an elk, great. You split it 2 or 3 ways. That's a lot of meat to bring home, but it's. To me, it's a great vacation, and it's still a vacation. It really is, but it's also a heck of an experience. Yep. Since we live so far away from it, we're not going to be able to do it every single year. So if you want to do it, at least do it once. That way you're not living in regret later on. Trust me, you get older. I'm 42 now, so I can still get around pretty well, but I know in about 10 years, it's going to be harder to do those things in the mountains. So I want to do it while I can. And I don't want to think, whenever I'm, laying there telling my grandkids, oh, I wish I'd have done this. I want to say, yeah, I did this a handful of times. I may not have shot an elk, but my God, I had a good time trying. So yeah, I recommend anybody has the opportunity to get out there and do it. It can be pretty cost effective.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that with us. You know, some people don't like to share information like that because they don't want them going out there doing it. But
Oh, everybody needs to be out there. Yeah,
Absolutely.
everybody. I mean, there's so much space out there. I mean, trust me, I don't have anything dialed in out there in the Elk Mountains anywhere.
Yeah.
So I'll share my waypoints if people need them.
man, I tell you, just to be out there and be in the woods and in that country for me would be an amazing experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just
That'd
the
be
weather
awesome.
patterns and the ample wildlife you see, and then of course, you know, hearing the elk bugle. I mean, we heard plenty of elk bugle. I mean, that just gets your blood going right there. And then, you know, just being out there hiking around, you know, taking it all in, you know, being present, you know, watching the wind hit the trees, watching the sunrise, the sunsets. I mean, and I do that here. I mean, I get mesmerized just sitting there watching a chipmunk go around, and I end up missing an opportunity at a deer because I'm just watching the wildlife out there. But, you know, out there in the mountains, when you're not accustomed to it, you get blown away by it.
Yeah. I think we know some people that make some pretty good elk diaphragm mouth calls.
Oh, yeah. We'll have to try them out soon.
Yes, sir. Just let us know. We'll hook you up.
Heck yeah. Yeah.
Dave?
We'll put them to use.
Hey, Dave, you sleep over there?
Hey, bud, I'm wide awake. I'm taking this all in, man. I'm picturing myself on an elk hunt.
Yeah, no doubt.
Oh, man, I tell you. You know, one of the things that I love, and then we'll get into the verse of the day, one of the things that I love about just being in the woods is I feel so much closer to our Creator whenever I'm sitting in the middle of His creation.
Yeah, you got that right.
I just, man, it is so amazing how it's medicinal, really, to get away from work, to get away from the stress of life. And everybody's got stress. I don't care how much money you've got, how
You're right.
you know, how much of a perfect marriage you have. Everybody is living with stress in their life, and it's just
Some
amazing.
kind.
Yes. And it's amazing just to get out and release all that stuff, get it out of you, and breathe in some fresh air while you're doing it. So our verse of the day tonight is Ephesians chapter 4, verse 32. And I'm going to read this out of the Passion. It's one of my favorite translations at this point. I mean, you all know this. I say this every episode. Anyway, he says, and I do this just because it's easier for me to understand. You know, there are translations out there that maybe, I don't know, better to some people, but, you know, I say it's all about understanding it and breaking it down. So he says, but instead, and you know, in the verse prior, he's talking about all the things not to do. So here he says, but instead, be kind and affectionate toward one another. Has God graciously forgiven you? Then graciously forgive one another in the depths of Christ's love. And, you know, nowadays, you know, we always try to bring it into today's realm, and just seeing how people treat each other, you know, just on the, I guess more on the world stage, and but, you know, just how rude people have become, and, you know, it's good to be kind one to another. He wants us to love each other the way He loved us. You know, He laid His life down for us. And so I think we're supposed to lay our lives down for one another and be givers and help each other. If you see somebody in need, stop and ask them if they need something. You know, I think that's the way He wants us to be. Anyway.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a pertinent scripture.
I mean, everybody wouldn't be so uptight and rude if they would spend more time in the woods.
That's right, man. Get in the woods and get your rude out.
Get in the woods or get on a trout stream and just...
Or on a bank, on a fishing bank
and
somewhere.
then give
Absolutely.
us an elk hunt.
I think that kind of correlates too with the idea of hunting and fishing, and how we have so many different groups out there that have all common goals, common objectives. We may be going about it differently. We may be from a different political background. We may be split like BHA is, diversely between, different, political beliefs. But at the same time, we're all after the same mission. We're after conservation, sound habitat. We're after, that great experience. That way we do go out there, we get that escape. We get that mental escape from the stress
absolutely.
that we have, especially, we saw that because of COVID. We saw how people flock to the outdoors, especially, coming from the camping industry, the Parks and Rec industry. People are using those spaces like they've never used them before, and they still are. That trend of that new connection with the outdoors, hunting and fishing in particular. Hunting and fishing licenses skyrocketed because of COVID. Those people are seeking solace for that mental escape, for that mental pressure that we're building even more of. So, that's a good one to really quote today.
Yeah, I was going to say, we get folks all the time that we'll be out on the boat and we're floating and like the fishing rod comes down. They just let it set down. They're looking at everything else going around, the birds coming by, being on the river, the sound of it, just being out there visually, it just resets your mind. Yeah,
taking it in.
I can't tell you the amount of folks that get in there and they're like, we don't care if we catch anything. This is great. We just want to be here because it's a break from whatever the urban or their work setting is or wherever they're at. And, it is. It's a grounding rod, if you will, for you to kind of reset your mind to be out there. It's just, you sometimes, I think, see how small you are in the scenario of the world around us. And especially like Jameson is talking about going out west, you go out there and, we're used to the jungles of West Virginia here, but you get out in the Montana and Big Sky country, or you get up on top of some of the peaks there in Colorado and you're glassing across, you realize just how immense some of the area is around you. And what you're doing don't mean a whole lot of anything.
Definitely. We seem so compressed here with how small things are, but like you're saying, when you get out there and it really opens up, you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I never could understand how folks would get lost while I was living out in Colorado. I'm like, there's a 14,000-foot mountain right there. Like, it's right there. How do you get lost? You dump somebody back in a valley here in West Virginia with the rhododendron and everything else, and you can't see but 10 yards in front of you. I can see how you get lost around here, but I never got. I'm like, listen, snow.
Absolutely.
You want to be able to figure out where you are out there.
Yeah, definitely. What I was going to say when you was talking about the RV industry there and Jameson about the camping and stuff during COVID, I think they had the highest RV sales in history during COVID, and it hit like $1 billion for that year just for the RV sales. I know there were camper manufacturers that could not make enough campers during that time.
Yeah, it was insane. So a lot of those RV manufacturers are in northern Indiana, and in a normal year they're dumping out typically about 10 to 12 units a week. 2020, going into 2021, they were trying to dump out between 25 and 30. So it just tells you the demand of the camping. And I met, running the campground, we met so many people in the end of 2020 going into 2021 that, this is our first time camping, or we just bought this camper. That was the story we heard from so many people. But I'll give you a little bit of insight, and nothing against the camping manufacturers, but when you're in the market for a camper, I do not recommend buying one that was built in late 2020 because they were putting them together relatively quickly. And some of the individuals that I met with some of those models have had a few issues. So not to slam those because I'm sure there's still some great ones out there, but just keep that in mind if you're in that market for trying to buy a new camping unit. Make sure you look at the year. 2019 might be a better option.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
That
info.
goes with, back to the old saying, never buy anything that was made on Wednesday or Friday.
So, Charlie, how about your fishing and hunting season this year? How'd it go?
Well, it's been, I can be completely honest, I've been working more than I've gotten to hunt so far this season. I've got one really good looking buck that I've been trying to get on. Ooh. And have yet to be successful. I'm hoping he made it through rifle season here. I haven't seen it pop up on anything since the opener of rifle. But what can I say? He's in an area that I don't think a lot of folks want to go in there and go chasing a deer around or try and get him back out of there. So I'm guessing
Gotcha.
As soon as he heard shots fired, I'm guessing he went down into the bottom there. It is held up. I'm hoping at least. No, I've spent more time, oddly enough, still with a rod in my hand, or one of the things I like to do this time of year is when we're floating and fishing and stuff is we'll actually squirrel hunt some out of the boat while we're going through. I got a rigged up.
Oh, nice.
22, and we'll, if duck and goose is in, we can certainly shoot some duck and geese in there. But we got into it the last couple of years. There's so many big old fox squirrels and stuff that stay on those river bottoms, and so we just kind of slow drift. And when we see one, we'll try and get within a certain range and basically snipe them out of the boat and then go pick them up. So, and that's kind of been
awesome.
My main hunting thing for the fall. Like I said, I've gotten out for that one buck, and then typically during this time of the year, rifle. I'm normally trying to get my son or my wife or somebody else out and let them pop a shot off at something. So,
right.
But I'm looking at.
Well, anything would be better than what I did because I came home with a spike. So. Not much there.
Hey, it's meat, bro.
But the meat's really good. I've had some of the tenderloin. It's really good.
Most of them all taste the same on the grill, I've found,
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try and slip over. I got my brother-in-law's over in Virginia, and they have a nice later season that this year, because of the way it breaks down, you get all the way into the first week of January. So I'll probably get over there and add an extra deer or two to the freezer from over in Virginia for late season. So.
Dave, you're talking about just taking a spike down. I mean, we've got Dan Hall out in Illinois. He's one of our co-hosts here. He's out in Illinois going to deer camp to take down hopefully a big buck in Illinois. And he was like, man, if I tell you, though, if I see a doe, I'm probably going to have to take her down. I'm like, no, you do not shoot a doe in Illinois.
Dan's one of those people, though, man. He likes putting that meat in the freezer. And, he's going to take whatever meat he
does. But just like Jameson was saying earlier, the land of the giants out there, and you cannot shoot a doe in Illinois.
Yeah, Illinois is definitely known for some big ones. I am curious, though. I've never bought an Illinois tag, but I wonder if you do get a doe on like an antlerless and an antler tag for that price. I mean, you pay a substantial amount of money. I don't want to say how much, because I know it's a lot, but I would expect or assume for that kind of cash, you'd get a doe and a buck tag.
Yeah, I think it's around $700 is what he's got in his license.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous
for an out-of-state hunter.
It's more expensive than my elk tag for Wyoming.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. So I got a couple more questions for Charlie there. So I was reading through your bio there on the BHA page, and you started working at a local outdoor store when you were 17. And it was an iconic shop here within West Virginia. What iconic shop was that?
Yeah, so I started working for a shop that at that time was called Blue Ridge Outdoors. It was based right here in Fayetteville. Predominantly, backpacking, rock climbing. We carried some kayaking, like water gear. But at that point, there was several shops. They had one over in Roanoke, Virginia, one in Blacksburg. And, at that time, if folks were hiking the Appalachian Trail, they were typically hitting one of those shops. If you're coming to Fayetteville to climb or do anything like that, that was the place to go to buy gear and all. It's now called Waterstone. It's switched owners just here recently. The original owners, Gina Mora Kistler, finally sold the shop to some folks, and but it's still in operation. And, it's kind of one of those places that really got me understanding what good quality gear is, how to set your pack up, how to get your boots fitted right, how to do a lot of those things that, really makes your backcountry experience a lot better, a lot more comfortable when you can get everything set up right. And it sent me down a path of, going out west and moving out west. And 30 years later, I'm still working in the outdoor industry, and just haven't stopped. I started off
that's awesome
in a more corporate job here in West Virginia, and they ended up, the company went on strike, and so I ended up being laid off for work at that point, and walked into the shop when I was 17, and the owner said, well, we can use you to work in here and you can still make your car payment. He's like, I can't pay you as much, but you get some discounts on gear and this and that. And I was like, well, that seems all right for me. And I was spending all my money on, waterproof jackets and boots and backpacks and stuff anyway. So in the end, I think it worked out better for me. And if you'd said 30 years later I'd still be trumping around the woods or pushing a boat down the river, I wouldn't have thought that would be what I'm doing for a living. But here I am.
Yeah. And you're now the owner of Vandalia Outfitters, correct?
Yep, based right here just outside of Fayetteville. And yeah, we do float fishing trips and stuff here on the New and the Greenbrier, Golly. There's also some wading trips around the area that we'll do for trout and some things like that. And yeah, I mean, I started when I was 18 working for a company. It's not there now. It's part of one of the larger conglomerate companies here, but it started for North American River Runners back when I was 18 years old, working as a whitewater guide. And yeah, I just, like we were talking about, I get on the water and on the river, and my whole mindset changes, and it just it's the place where I want to be. I joke a lot of times that I hope one day if I got to check out of this world, I hope I got clients sitting in the front of the boat and they happen to look back and I've just slumped over with my hands still on the oars and just gone. That's it, and because there's far worse places to have to check out of this world than sitting in a boat while everybody's fishing and floating down the river. So
yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
I mean, if that's a passion of yours, and there wouldn't be no better way to go than that, man.
Yeah. And I mean, the great thing is you get to meet so many different folks. For us, we can't go back and shoot that first deer. We can't go back and catch our first fish or do any of those things. But while you're out there and working with different folks and guiding and all, I get to vicariously catch my first fish over and over. Every year I get somebody that's their first time out on the water. That's their first fish they've ever caught, or that's the first deer that they've taken. And so, in that sense, I think sometimes maybe it's a little selfish on my side, but I thrive off of that, because you don't get to have that experience again. And to see the look on that kid's face when he pulls his first fish out, is incredible. And I mean, I've had folks that were 65 years old and come out and catch their first fish. I actually got my mother-in-law her very first fish, and here she's born and raised just a little further south from us here in Virginia, and all her family and everybody pretty avid fishermen and hunters, but somehow it skipped her. And so when I heard that, nothing doing, we had to get her out there, and and we got her on her first smallmouth bass right there on the New River. So she didn't really, I don't think, was really enthused on touching it, but we at least got a good picture of it. I couldn't get her to give it the kiss for her first fish either. So
I hear you. That's awesome. All right, guys. Sorry again. We had a little technical issue there, and we lost Jameson. Well, we just lost him again. Maybe he'll be able to come back on here. So, Charlie, you were talking about the fishing guides and things there that you do. Oh, we lost Charlie now. We're losing everybody.
My goodness.
Jeez. I don't know what's going on. We thought we had these technical issues taken care of, which I think we did, but
I think this is probably an internet issue.
Maybe an internet thing.
Like a local, like to you and me, Mike. I'd say
Is
it's
it pretty windy over there for you
guys?
guys this afternoon or this evening?
Yeah, it's been really windy here. So
yeah, real windy and it got super cold today. Like our temperature dropped to about 40, 50 degrees
that could
today.
be part of it, the wind.
All right, guys. So still dealing with a little technical difficulties here. I think we maybe have them ironed out now. So, Charlie, finish up telling us there about your fishing guide services and things.
Yeah. Like I say, we're mostly right here on the New. We'll hit certain stretches of the Golly and the Greenbrier and all, and then there's plenty of little trout streams around through here that we'll do some wading trips and all on. But it's we pretty much the one beauty of where we live. You can fish year round, whether it's smallmouth or muskie or trout or something. There's always something to go after. And then, the right time of year, like we were talking about there a little bit, we can do a cast and blast trip, as we like to call them, where you're out doing a little duck hunting or goose hunting, or, like we say, one of our big things we've gotten into the last couple of years is we like the squirrel hunt out of the boat, just floating down down through the river. There's a lot of big old fox squirrels that are down in the bottom, and it's test your rifle skills for sure. And it's always, there's always some sort of opportunity to be able to get out there. So.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let everybody know there, Vandalia Outfitters, if they want to get in contact with you and schedule a guided event there, how can they do that?
Yeah, hopefully our website will be up and operational. It's getting some work done to it right now, and that'll be back up. But certainly you can always track me down via Facebook or Instagram there and shoot me over a message that way. That's typically one of the easiest ways to get a hold of me. I can't guarantee we're always in cell service and all for you to be able to reach out to us on the phone. So hopefully we're down in the river
Charlie,
somewhere fishing.
Jump in real quick and just say one thing that I really hope I'm not one of your clients or guests in your boat whenever you decide to keel over the way you want to go, man. I mean, I want to be out there in the river with you, but not that particular trip.
Not on that one.
Yeah, well,
have you ever heard on the Godfather where he says, he sleeps with the fishes? Charlie's going to be sleeping with the fishes.
Yeah. Well, you got to figure if you're with me on the trip, then you don't have to worry about being a pallbearer. You can just roll me off the side of the boat, you don't have to carry me around. Just go on.
Or tip. That's what I was going to say. You're going to save money on that guide tip.
Don't worry, man. We'll get you down the river. We'll get you back to the boat ramp.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Just means you get to have all the rest of the beer that's in the cooler, So.
How many 22 shells does he have left?
Have you seen people that Have you seen people that put like a cooler on a line out in the water when they're kayaking?
Oh,
That's what we're going to do with Charlie. We're going to have him on a line in the water.
Oh, that's funny. All right, well, before we get kicked off here again, let's go into the special offers that's going on right now for members for BHA.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, there's so much that we can discuss and get so many rabbit holes about BHA that we could go down, but we'd have to be on here for 3 or 4 more hours because there's so much awesome stuff we're doing. So I invite people, get on BHA's website. Awesome. There's a lot of great take action notices on there. I mean, BHA is really good about keeping on top of national policy. Make sure you follow, the West Virginia chapter social media pages. And if you're not in West Virginia, find your state. Every state has a great chapter. They're all active. Find them on social media. You can go on to the BHA's website, click on chapters, find your state, see what they have going on as far as events, as far as policy issues, as far as news about what's happening. And if you want to get active, man, reach out to them. Everybody has an email. Everybody has social media. You can get a hold of them that way and say, hey, man, I want to volunteer. You may not want to be on the board, but you may have a specific, project in your area you could help out with, whether it be like a cleanup day, just a trash pack out, or of some DNR property or some forest property that needs some cleanup going on, or some habitat restoration work, anything like that. And of course, BHA is known for a lot of good social events like our pint nights that we try to hold in various places. So I do want to give a shout out. One thing BHA's really taken off this year is with an Armed Forces Initiative branch of BHA, and we have a great Armed Forces coordinator. We call it AFI. His name is Trevor Hibbs. He's an Army vet. He has taken the AFI program through BHA and has just exploded. The guy's a phenomenal leader. He's a phenomenal advocate for BHA and a huge advocate for his fellow veterans, active service member, Gold Star families, all the above. You can get on BHA's website and find out more information about AFI. Please reach out to me or Charlie or anybody else if you want to find out more about that or how to get active to do the AFI services through BHA. It's separate from our normal chapter operations, and there's a lot of services and activities and events catered specifically towards our veterans. So please reach out if you'd be interested in that. And then we also have collegiate clubs. One great collegiate club that we have is right there at WVU. But Kylie Schumacher is our collegiate club our coordinator out of our headquarters there in Missoula. They're doing a fantastic job getting a lot of our college clubs up and going. Some amazing students, great future leaders. And then what a lot of those folks do, a lot of those students get out of school and they become our chapter leaders or our chapter stewards. A lot of them are conservationists or going to school for biology or something catered towards the outdoors, hunting and fishing. So it's a great thing to be involved with. And of course, we're membership based. I mean, it's powered by members. And that's one thing that, with every conservation organization, including BHA, is we can't do it, like I said earlier, without our volunteers. That's our bread and butter. They're our driving force. And the members is what really helps us keep going. I mean, obviously, we have a lot of different funding sources, but memberships are our main funding source. And, as members, those numbers help us have that political clout when we have to do some things, helping protect our public lands and waters. There's great events out there. If you're a member of a specific chapter or a BHA involved with a specific chapter, you get invited to all their events. You get some special offers being a BHA member, or incentives through some of our great national partners, which you can read about them on our website. And then we also have a really cool special offer going on right now. If you want to be a new member or renew your membership if it's lapsed, you get a really awesome Gerber downwind knife with a laser engraved BHA logo on the blade. And I know you guys are going to have a link to that specific sign up page here in a little bit whenever this goes live. And you have to sign up through that specific page on the website that says Gerber knife. You'll be able to sign up right there to receive that knife. You also get we do a quarterly issues of our Backcountry Journal, which is a magazine publication, has some awesome content, some great writing in there. We get a lot of articles just from our membership that submit those articles to us. So you get to read a lot of cool content from around the country, talking about experiences, adventures, maybe some policy efforts, some events we have going on. So it's a great way to be engaged. BHA does have a podcast with Hal Herring. So it's another way to learn more about BHA and conservation, about what's going on. There's a lot of good content out there that you can be involved with. Get on the website. There's a lot of cool stuff. It might take you an hour or two to kind of go through all the great stuff on that website. Feel free to check it out. Reach out to me, Charlie, anybody like that. If you have any questions, concerns, or suggestions, and we're always all ears.
Yes, man, that's awesome. I just think this is a great organization. Jameson, I love your intro there on your Facebook page. It says, I'm an advocate for conservation, outdoor recreation, public spaces, and wild places.
That's right, man.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're going to have some links here as we post our content and as this airs in our description for all these things that he was talking about with the special offers and memberships and things like that. So we really appreciate you guys coming on this evening, and it was awesome. We had a great time.
Absolutely, man. I love having you guys on here.
Yeah, you guys are great to talk to. I felt like I've known you forever now. I like that. I like this type of conversation.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's what we like to hear.
Great.
Yep, we definitely appreciate it. And be sure to check us out at On the Limb with Nature's Voice Game Calls on Facebook. And we are on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, and about 15 other different outlets. So wherever you get your podcasts, we're there. So be sure to check out Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, and that's BHA for short. And get your memberships in there and get that special offer that they got going on with that Gerber knife engraved. So we thank you all for coming on, and thanks for listening, everyone. Everybody have a great night. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
This episode of On the Limb with Nature's Voice Game Calls is brought to you by Ghost 802, a sports team based in Vermont. Their goal is to promote safe and ethical hunting and to raise the youth to share the same passion for the archery, hunting, and the outdoors as they did growing up. For more information, check them out on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Let them know that you heard about them right here on The Limb with Nature's Voice Game Calls.